myself Mahima and I'm from Kerala. Currently, I'm doing my research work in post-quantum cryptography specifically, like trying to aim and develop quantum-safe cryptographic systems, like especially for sustaining in a coexisting world where you have both classical system as well as quantum computers coexisting in the system. So last week we had our peer learning sessions about the different ways with which we can secure the system. Like we are having a threat of quantum computing and quantum computers coming into existence. When we have such systems coming in, we have to secure our existing systems as well as quantum computers, because very soon our classical computers are not going to be replaced by a quantum computer. So we have to think about a scenario where we have classical computers and they are being attacked by quantum computers. Again, we have quantum computers, they are communicating, we have to encrypt and secure, make them secure as well. So we have basically three approaches. One is pure quantum cryptography. That is, in that we come to the quantum random number generators, where the random numbers are completely generated using quantum physics and quantum mechanics principles. Again, we have quantum cryptography plus classical systems. That is where we come into QKD systems and all, where we have some system that is already working on, but we are using quantum key distribution to just exchange the keys. So what we are doing is we already have some keys that we were using, which is basically pseudo random generators. Like we had some algorithms to generate the key that we are usually using to encrypt the message. But now what we are trying to do is we are actually trying to generate the key and share the key using a quantum computing mechanism, like that is the QKD. So what is the advantage there is, we had already discussed, quantum computing is coming into existence and quantum computing is actually increasing rapidly. So we have Shor's algorithm and everything which could break RSA, which is actually an algorithm that we are using to share the key right now. So if we continue to share the keys using RSA, we are going to be in a threat. So what we are trying to achieve there is we are actually trying to achieve key sharing using quantum methods. But again, the encryption is being done in the classical method. Then the next approach is post-quantum cryptography. In post-quantum cryptography, we are not dealing with anything related to quantum mechanics and all. We are actually trying to use algorithms exactly working like the classical encryption, but they have very strong underlying methods. Like for example, we have RSA, which was strong till now. Why? We had a factorization problem which was very hard for a classical computer to solve. But now, since we have quantum computers which could solve that, now it is a threat. But we have certain other set of problems or hard problems which are again not solvable by a quantum computer. So we take such set of problems and develop encryption scheme. Such set of algorithms are called post-quantum cryptography. So now we are going to get into the details of how post-quantum cryptography works. Is that making sense?
Yeah, Mahima, do you want to share your screen?
Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Now? Now is it visible?
No. So
Okay.
after you click on share screen, it's gonna give you multiple options, desktop one, whatnot, or browser, and then you have to select something and click on share again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Is there any doubts? Like only concept is that if you have a equation system and you have a solution to it, it is very easy to solve. But if you introduce errors into that equation system, it gets difficult. Okay, now what we will do is we will have the equation system with the errors, and that from there we will choose some equations, and based on that equation, if a large number of a big error is introduced, it is simply encrypting 0. If a small error is introduced, it is simply encrypting 0, and if a big error is introduced, it is encrypting 1. But any adversary cannot break it simply because it is equation system based on errors. So and the technical term behind that is trapdoor functions. Yes, it is easily to calculate if you have x and y, but it is difficult since we have an equation system with errors. So that is basically the lattice based cryptographic systems. So I'm moving on to the next one, that is code-based cryptographic systems. Now in code-based cryptographic system, again, we are going to talk about all these errors itself. Code-based cryptographic systems is based on error correction codes. Okay, so we would have seen lots of error correction codes like CRC, Hamming code and all. So here basically we are talking about linear error correction codes. Okay, I'm trying to give you the base idea that the real, again, same with lattice-based cryptography. The actual lattice-based cryptography systems are much more mathematically intense. Okay, if anybody who's going to read about the lattice-based cryptography, they can go into depth of that. But like the basics of these cryptographic systems, that is what I'm trying to convey. So like in code-based cryptographic systems also, we have linear error correction codes. Okay, so simply how they work is we will have a input message, then we have a error correcting code matrix, we will multiply it and we will get a message. Now and this message with the error correction code matrix, and important thing to remember here is this, let's say it will be n bit. Okay, we have an error correction code, this will be more than n bit. Okay, the resultant matrix, the result of multiplication will be more, and the remaining bits that we have added is actually helping us in correcting the code. Okay, so now when we have n bit overhead, we can actually correct n by 2. So let's assume that I have 8 bit. Okay, to 8 bit I am adding again 8 bits more. So now the final message will be 16 bits. Now I can correct only 4-bit errors. Okay, that is the concept behind it. So if to an n-bit message, if you are to a message, if you are adding n-bit overhead, then you can correct only n-2 errors. Okay, so that is the concept. That is the concept behind linear correction codes. So now what we are going to do is we have such a scheme, and there is certain matrices, only certain matrices, that is the power of error correction codes. There are certain matrices which has these properties. Okay, we have to choose such sort of matrices, and those matrices are called good matrices. Okay, so these good matrices have the properties such that if you will multiply a set of message with that matrices and you get a result, you send that result or you introduce some errors into that result, you do the inverse of the multiplication, you can actually locate where the error has come. That is the basic principle. You have simple multiplication and inversing it. Okay. Now what we are going to do is, how we are applying this in encryption is, what we are going to do is we choose such a matrix and we are going to convert it into a bad matrix. Bad matrix is nothing but reversing is very difficult. Okay. Now, if you multiply a message with a bad matrix, finding the error in that result is very difficult. Okay. So now we can easily convert a good matrix into a bad matrix by using blend matrices. So simply understand that there are some matrices or concepts like this which exist such that we can actually easily convert a good matrix into a bad matrix. Okay. Now what we are going to do is, the private key will be a this particular set. Okay, where you have the combination of good matrix and the blend matrix you have used, and the public key will be the bad matrix. Okay, now the encryption will be like the plain text you have and the bad matrix plus errors. You have introduced some errors into that. Now it is actually easy to regenerate the errors and remove the final original errors and regenerate the actual message, that is the plain text from this, for any person who has this good metrics and the blind metrics. So that is the simple concept here. We are basically using error correction codes. Error correction codes has some good matrices that is already chosen, which has this property such that if you multiply an input with that matrix, it will give you a resultant. And from that result, if any bit is changing to 1 or 0, it is easy to detect it. Now, we are using this matrix with combination with blend matrix. Why? We have to convert it to a bad matrix. Bad matrix is nothing but reversing is very difficult from a using a bad matrix. Okay. Now, what we have to do is this will be set as the private and public key. Now, in the encryption, we will multiply it with the plain text, and we have introducing another errors again. But for a person with the good matrix combination, to remove these errors, it is detect these errors, it is easier for rather than for a another person who do not have any information about the good matrix. So in practical sense, we are going to introduce almost 1047 bits overhead and all, but with which we can correct around 773 errors. But we will introduce only less than 200 bits errors and all. What I'm trying to convey here is, but still the key size is around 1 MB, whereas RSA needs only 2 KB of input size. So the problem with this sort of encryption schemes is also that it needs huge computation over matrices. See, these good matrices and all, it will be very big. So the key size to store these key sizes, it will be huge data size. So the contribution that can come in this areas is how we can compress these matrices without like actually destroying the property of their good matrices. Like how we can use different encoding schemes like LDPC, QC, LDPC, etc. and all. And make improve the scheme actually. So that is about code-based systems. It is simply based on error correcting codes. Now we move on to the next scheme, that is hash-based crypto systems. Any doubt till now? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mahima, you are.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Can I move on?
Yep.
Yeah. So next is hash-based crypto systems. Hash-based crypto systems is again, first thing we have to understand is here we have basically three requirements. Okay. One is key encryption, then key encoding, now public key encryption, then key encoding methods, and the next one is signatures. Hash-based crypto systems is basically for signatures. Okay. Like you are digitally signing a message or something like that. So to explain hash-based system, we have lots of methods. One important way is, let's say one common way is, let's say I have to say yes and no to a person. Okay. So what I will do is, I will encrypt, I will choose one random number representing yes and another random number representing no. And I will convert the random numbers representing yes and no to its corresponding hash and then give it to a person. So let's say I have to tell yes and no. I will choose random numbers representing yes and random number representing no. I will hash it and give this hash value to this person. Okay. Now we are not going to meet. Okay. I have written the hash value in the paper and given to that person. Now later I have to tell yes or no to this person. What I will do is, I will actually reveal my original hash value. Okay. So whichever hash value, now this person will actually convert the random number that I have shared with that person, and he will actually find the signature that I've shared. So if I'll give the random number 1 to that person, the person, when he converts the hash value converts the random number to its hash value, he will get either one of them, which represents yes or no. Okay, so if let's assume I have a random number 1 representing yes, random number 2 representing no. I have converted them into their hash values, and let's call it hash 1 and hash 2. Okay, now hash 1 and hash 2 is sitting with the person. Okay, now I have to tell yes. Okay, what I will do is I will give random number 1 to that person. Now what the person will do is random number 1 will be hashed, and he will match it with the 2 hash values that he have. So he got the first value, which represents actually yes. Okay, so it means that I have told yes. But the problem here is I had to reveal the random number 1 itself to the person. So you have to actually reveal some amount of your private information to actually make it work. So here the private key is random number 1 and 2. The public key is actually the hashes of their random numbers, and the signature will be you share either of the original messages, and you can actually sign it. But the problem here is the entire setup can be used only once. You have to share a part of your private key. A lot of problems are here. So basically, almost all of the hash-based schemes in post-quantum cryptography is considered weak, but many algorithms are still being proposed. Maybe in the future, we'll have stronger algorithms. As of now, majority of the algorithms in this category is actually very weak. Now we have multivariate systems. Multivariate systems is based on basically NP hard or NP complete problems. Again, it is based on equation systems with multiple variables. It is, as we have told, the solvability of the equation systems itself is the problem here. Again, the speed of the entire scheme is the challenge over here. So that is all about multivariate systems. So the researchers can actually focus on how we can actually decrease the time required for computing this in one direction, that is encryption, decryption, etc. Then decreasing the size that is required to achieve the amount of security that is required, etc. Now, other schemes are also there. We have isogeny based crypto systems. These are actually elliptic curve schemes. We say that elliptic curve cryptography is going to be broken by quantum computers, but still there are quantum hard problems inside that. So isogeny based crypto systems is based on such problems which are quantum hard in the elliptic curve region. Okay, so if you are interested, you can go and read about them. It is all these subsections are very vast. You can read about them. Next is actually non-commutative crypto system. Non-commutative crypto system, the very basic example is like we have Rubik's Cube. Okay, so we will have a Rubik's Cube. If you have a cube starting from a state, you will do maybe a series of steps. Let's call it A, and a series of steps. Let's call it B. Now there will be some X for which if you simply add and minus it, then you will simply get B. Okay, so it is possible, right? You have a different sequence in you are doing and a different sequence you are doing in a Rubik's Cube, but there could be something, if you simply add or minus it, you can actually interchange between these two states. So you are finding that that X, this specific X, which you can add minus into that particular first sequence, and you will get this sequence B. Okay, which will make it equal to sequence B. Now this is actually again very non-applicable applied area right now, but there are lots of very strong algorithms, but in the NIST competition none of them are running in. Now hybrid approach is actually combining the post-quantum cryptographic system and pre-quantum cryptographic system. So that is also a practical area of implementation right now. So many algorithms and studies are coming in, which combines post-quantum cryptographic systems and the existing classical and modern cryptographic systems. So that is about hybrid. I'm just giving you the brief of post-quantum cryptographic standardization. We have 7 finalists and 8 alternative algorithms that is running, and they are expecting the final draft by 2022 and 2023. By this standardization process, what we should understand is the standardized algorithms that we are working on today is completely under toes, or they are going to be on toes, and we are going to have a shift in the standardization standards that we are following today. Almost all of the standard algorithms that we are going to use could be replaced very soon with this. So right now we have a high requirement of adapting, a high need of adapting ourselves to this post-quantum cryptographic systems. Why? Because standards are going to change. There are lots of computational difference that is coming up. Requirements are changing. We don't know exactly how the computational power of different organization and different countries are. So it is high time, and it is the right time to start thinking about and proposing schemes for your organization or your institutes or whatever. So that is NIST post quantum standardization. There are different projects apart from this NIST post quantum standardization. Those who are interested, you can read about these post quantum cryptographic projects as well, which are also trying to bring in and study about different post quantum cryptographic schemes. There are many post quantum cryptographic projects that is going on now. Post quantum cryptographic initiatives are being done in blockchain as well. Since we are having a blockchain initiative at our end, we have to talk about that as well. So the Bitcoin is trying to experiment on that, Ethereum, Abelian, Coda. Everybody is like trying to have a post quantum cryptography implementation at their end. Now, for every of these communication, we have to have well-established quantum networks. That is one of the requirement. And if we believe that that is something very futuristic, it is not. Why? Because we have proofs here. There are lots of organizations that is trying to establish quantum networks and quantum communication channels. And they have even gone ahead and implemented the quantum communication channels using satellites, etc. Now, what we can focus on, like if you talk about the pure QKDs, the focus, summary of focus, we have multiple areas, but this summary of focus could be that we can hardware implementation of QKD, like we have to focus on the photon sources, how we can achieve the long distance communication, like repeaters, how the error correction can be achieved, etc. And in post-quantum cryptography, the focus could be on the key size, the resource requirement, how these cryptographic systems can be embedded into the existing systems without much change in the architectural side and the resource dependence, etc. Now, it is high time to adapt the current change. And before being a victim, we have to be prominent enough and capable enough to face the threat. That is why we have to look into it right now. So that is it. Any questions?
All right, lovely. Cool. Thanks a lot, Mahima.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any questions?
No, but there are just compliments on the chat. You can check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to stop sharing, then you can